Now, in line with our conversation today, Brian Mushiri did some digging and found two ladies, that is Sharon and Josephine, whom he sat with on the type of parents they hope to be and whether they themselves have noted elements of their parents in them.
I'm joined by Sharon and Josephine to just basically get to understand, have we become like our parents? Let me start with you, Sharon. I mean, you're a self-taught baker. Yeah. Do you see elements of yourself in your mom? Ama unaona kama mom umekuwa kama yeye?
First of all, my mom was a baker, a self-taught baker. Now it turned out that I got it from her as a skill, that I've monetized it and made it income-generating activity for me. But for her, it was just, kupikia tu family, home, tunakula keki. But now I'm doing it and then realizing, oh, mom used to do this. Yeah.
Hi, Josephine. I mean, I need to drag you into the conversation now. And you're in Seoul, South Korea. Do you see elements of yourself that are the same copyright as those that you find in your mother or your dad?
Oh, yes, most definitely, yes. It is a real thing. For me, it is the chai. I cannot stay without my tea, okay? My mom is addicted to tea, and I have as well become addicted to tea. Every day. It does not matter, come rain, come sunshine, it doesn't matter how the weather is. Lazima nikunywe chai.
Are there some of these things that you tell yourselves as ladies, and even me as a gentleman, that, when I look at myself as a dad, I'd be the coolest dad. Sitakuwa nachapa watoto sana. Kuna vitu mnajiambianga kama hizo?
For me, I used to. Until my brother has like 4 kids. My sister has 1 kid. How I relate to them, I treat them as if they are my own. And mama yetu hakuwa mpole with us. But I was favored because I'm the last born, I mean. But hakuwa mpole with us. Now, how I treat these kids when wamekosea, it's actually the same way. Like, it's not soft. I'm not being soft with them. As much as mom was being soft with me because I'm the last born. But how she was treating my second sister and my brother, totally different. And that is how I treat my nephews and my nieces. Not soft.
Josephine, as a mom, what do we expect?
Wow. First of all, I think that being a mom is like the coolest job in the whole wide world. Naomba tu Mungu anibariki siku moja kwa mama ya mtu.
Amen.
But for me, I think that if there was something that I used to say that I would never do, it's like, when your mom is like, nani amewacha hizi, nani alishika, I have become that person.
Yeah.
Nani amewacha hizi dishes hapa? Na si nilisema zioshwe. And mind you, I'm also talking to adults.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily talking to younger people. I'm talking to whole adults who can take care of themselves. I'm like, mbona nani amewasha jiko? Na msinilimwambia mkuwe mnazima gas,
Na kwani wazazi wote walienda shule moja?
I know. For my mom was a clean freak. A clean freak. So, ukienda kwa jikoni, venye watu wanachanga sink imejaa, she would go nuts about it. And that is the same thing I mean. When I'm inviting people over, I'm like, I want my sink clean, I want nyumba ikuwe safi. She was clean and go. Tidy and go, tidy and go, tidy and go. And that is how I've become. Like, I want my house neat. For sale.
Allow me to just rebound. You keep saying my mom was. What's the situation?
Mommy is asleep now, I will say. Okay. Like, she slept in 2017, and now it's 4 years down the line. Okay. Yeah, she's late.
Okay. And how has that been? I mean, now you see some sort of reenactment in yourself. Ni ati umekuwa mkali, ni ati you look exactly like her. What's the situation?
In a lot of things. First of all, the baking part, and then how I'm kind of controlling. And yeah, it's showing up. Like, it's not subconsciously. It's as if I'm living my mom's life.
Josephine, do you have such elements? where?
Yeah, I used to say, Mimi. My mom is a teacher.
Yeah.
She's a Swahili teacher. I used to say, I'll never ever be a teacher. Well, currently, my part-time job is being a language teacher. And yeah, it is here. It is in my face. I'm slowly becoming her, you know, and hopefully in the future I'll be a professor. Now I'm like, sasa hizo nilitoa wapi, you know.
Yeah.
But like Sharon said, these are things that happen subconsciously. I don't think you really realize it until someone asks you, and you're like, wow, you know.
But you see,
You're becoming parents soon, I guess. What's it like for you?
like, first of all, as we close,
Yeah.
the thing is, I normally tell people, as much as our parents were harsh, they were good traits. And probably when you're not sure of what you can do in life, try to trace it back maybe to your parents, what they loved doing. Because if we have generational curses, there are also generational blessings. So go pick those blessings and run with them, and you can do something great with them.
Josephine,
Yeah.
final remarks. The future is here now. What do we expect? What should we take up?
Wow, I think we should just thank God, first of all. Me coming from a very African background and having moved all the way across the world, I'm so appreciative of the various values that my parents have taught me. These things that we complain about, you know, I've met people from all over the world, and parents wao hawako washindilia, you know.
Yes.
So they didn't have that guidance. They didn't have that kind of tough love. And I've seen the negative effects. So for me, for my children, I'm definitely going to impose some, I will not spare the road, I'm just saying. But, you know, I feel like it's really important to induce some kind of discipline into our children.
Okay.
Very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies. Sometimes you might just find yourself turning into your parent. You never know. It's just the circle of life, in my view. Good morning. I'm Brian Mushiri, and that's Your Voice.
A very interesting conversation there with Brian and the ladies. Thank you for that piece. And definitely, as they say, that fruit never falls that far from the tree. And going by what we just had from the ladies, those fruits fell right here. And this morning, we are delving further into that conversation, just understanding how much of the person you are today reflects back to the parents that brought you up. And then again, we're going to answer some of the questions because there must have been a reason why some things you said you never will. And perhaps today you still struggle with, but you hope that you can do better with the family that you have. And to help us along, Roslyn Keegan, who is a marriage and family therapist, is with us in studio. We're also joined by Stanley and Sophie Nabuliri. They are a couple. And of course, joining us from the comfort of their home is Lizzie and Steve Kiteto. Thank you all for joining us on this interesting conversation. I'll start off with you, Roslyn. I mean, what is the psychology behind ending up acting like your folks?
That's a very interesting question, and I love what those girls have said. And they somehow ended up like even me. At times, I feel like, wow, I'm doing the same thing that my mom is doing, and I didn't want to do them, but I'm still doing them. And it's just about number one is the genes, and the other one, when it comes to psychology, is the child's brain between age 1 or 0 to around 6 is when it's developed. Yeah, that's when the brain is developing, and it's developed by the age of 6 or 7. So you can imagine by that age you're at home, and everything that you see is consumed, and it's behind your back, it's behind your brain. So you're consuming something that no one else. There's no teacher. There's nothing. Only your mom and dad is around you. So by the age of 6, whatever you've seen, a child has really consumed a lot. And still, this child is still at home until maybe the age of 13, when they go maybe to boarding school. And all that thing, everything is consumed in the house. So you're seeing so many things that are happening, and you're seeing them in the house, in your home, in your house, your relatives, your grandmothers and your grandparents. This is what you're seeing, and this is what your brain is consuming. And it's what your brain has stored. Yeah.
Okay, so your parents being your first role models,
Yes.
it's inevitable that you will take up some of who they are?
It's inevitable. You'll pick them up. Whether you like it or not, you'll pick them up. You'll pick the good and you'll pick the bad. So it's up to you now as you become an adult and start individuating yourself to decide what do you want, what do I want to grow up with, and what do I want to drop. And by doing that is about processing. It's not like today I decide I want to stop. You have to process. You have to process and decide, this is what I want, and how am I going to stop this behavior? And some of those behavior, I know we're going to pick it up later in the program, is alcoholism, abuse, yeah, anger, yeah. You just wonder at times, you see, my mom used to be angry at. That's what she said. She used to make noise and make noise, and I told myself that I won't be angry like my mom. So, but when you become an adult or you get children, you start getting angry and start screaming at everyone. Yeah. But you've told yourself that you don't want to be angry at people. But the question is, have you processed that thought? Have you sought help to process that thought and change and say, you know what, where is this anger coming from? Where is it emanating from? And you know, it can come from great-great-great-grandfathers. Yeah. It's inherited. Some of these things, traits are inherited, are generational inherited. And what the other lady said is like you pick, there's some curses you pick and there's some blessings you pick. Yeah. So if you think that this is not good for you, the best thing to do is, how are you processing it? How do you decide, I want to stop today and I want to seek help? It's about seeking help and processing the things that you need to stop.
Okay, very well said. And this kickstarts that journey of trying to figure out some of these things. And I'd like to hear from Stanley and Sophie. You guys have been married how long now?
14 years.
14 years. Now, let me start with the lady, Sophie. In your adulthood, who do you think you reflect the most? Mom, dad?
Definitely my mom.
What about her?
So mom was a clean freak. And you know, every corner of the house had to be speck clean. You know, just as the other lady had mentioned, you know, it was clean and go. And I see that quite a bit, a lot in me. You know, I'm always, you know, in the house, you know, where has this moved here? Why has this not been done? Where, you know, so it's you know, when I reflect back, I'm like, that's just 100% my mom.
Okay. Anything else that you picked up and perhaps said, this will never be me?
Oh, yes. I just remember this morning as somebody was talking, you know, the way moms would pull you aside in public and they spit and clean your eyes and, you know, use saliva to clean you and groom you. And that used to be so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, man, I'll never do this to my children. And now I think if you talk to my daughters, they'll be like, Yani, mom, why? You know, it just comes so naturally.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. Now I see you smiling, Stanley. So who do you reflect?
I think I picked from both ends, but moreover from my mom. From my mom, I took her daggers. You know, there you go visit your maybe your cousins, friends, and there's food laid out at the table. I love food, and I give that attribute to my father. So after prayer, you know, you're quick to go dash and get the meal. Then you turn, or you feel like there's this eyes, they're just eyes on you. So you angalia slowly and you just find gorgeous eyes like telling you, dare you move. So you just chill and wait for there. From my dad, I think the thing I picked the most, and my wife can attest, is I love chilling in the house with the towel. You know, just walking around with the towel. Just, you know, not that clothes are bad, but
Yes.
it's just to let loose, you know. So what I've noticed is one of my daughters has emulated the same. So she'll try and copy me and tie her towel around her waist. So I have to remind her, hey, you're a lady. So I
Yeah.
have to tie them above somewhere.
Okay.
Though she's young, which is the beauty.
Interesting, interesting. And then again, it's your den. You can, you know, let loose a little bit.
Yes.
But I'm just thinking, such a trait, especially for you, Sophie, did it throw you off when you realized, Allah, this guy just walks around, filanga free?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you know, put on a t-shirt, something. But, you know, it just took time to realize that's him. You know, and again, it's his space. It's his way of just chilling out, you know. I mean, and it's not something that you know, it's done like throughout the day. So it's just allowing him to be. But then now having to be careful because, listen, you know, your girls are seeing, you're modeling, you know. So I have to be careful to also you know, train, you know, that there are certain ways, even if we're chilling in the house, that we should be, you know, dressed. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Let me hear from Lizzie and Steve Kiteto, married 13 years, 3 children later. Lizzie, let me start with you. Who do you reflect?
I keep saying it's my mom because when I look at my kids and sometimes I shout. I used to say I would never shout, but I'm like, who left this here? And then I'm like, oh, that's my mom talking. And then I remember I keep catching myself to not shout. Although I would say I'm 50-50, like personality-wise, I am my dad, and then there's a bit of me that is my mom. My dad was very quiet, very introverted, and I have picked a lot of that. And sometimes I say I don't want to be like him, but I find myself a lot of times doing what he did.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you talk about the shouting, and perhaps with the kids, that's where it comes out the most. When you think about your adulthood, before even marriage and becoming a mom, some of the things that you found yourself doing that you said, this I will never do.
Would be maybe just really being, if I had a roommate, I'd be like, don't leave things where they're not supposed to be. Don't keep your shoes outside of the door. I never thought I would take it to my house. I thought I would just, you know, that's who I am, and my kids will never have to go through this. Yeah, only to find myself years later doing the exact same thing.
Okay.
I fight with Steve about that a lot. Like, leave your shoes outside the door.
It's interesting that a lot of us picked up the being clean and making sure things are where they're supposed to be. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Let me hear from Steve. So who are you?
Yeah, and so I think I reflect a lot of my dad, both really, but my dad quite a bit. I realized one of the things that my wife discovered, she was just having a conversation with my brother's wife, and somehow they both discovered that my brother and I don't like spaghetti at night because my dad, you know, had this thing of yosi chakula. Yeah, you need a heavier meal. And for some reason, you know, I'm not into spaghetti just because my dad, you know, modeled it like that for us. The other thing we discovered, my brothers, you know, is we both collected tools, slasher, you know, pliers. We have almost the same set of tools in our houses, which is interesting. Again, that's my dad. But maybe an interesting one that I picked from home is we grew up with a lot of bananas. So, you know, the farm and then we brought to the house. So I get married, far away from the farm. You know, we grew up in a small town where we farmed quite a bit. And so now we got married, and my wife can't understand how a bunch of bananas that was meant to last a week has ended up, you know, just being cleared within a day. You know, discovered that.
Budgeting, an arigu budget.
Okay, interesting. Now, Steve, when you think about your young adult life, I mean, what are some of the things that even your own friends picked out, and when you would look back, you're like, la, 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 this is my mom or this is my dad?
Or talking loudly on the phone. If I have my phone, doesn't matter in the matatu, in the streets, whatever. I speak loudly. That's my dad. Those bad genes got them from my dad. We speak loudly. So that's one very distinct one.
Okay, interesting. And even as we think about who we are reflecting today, Rosaline, you mentioned that even you at times you catch yourself. So who do you reflect?
I think I'm more of my mom. Yeah, and most I think most of the women have alluded to that, apart, in terms of how to clean things, how to make sure everything is neat, do not sleep with the dishes washed. But now, as you know, my children are more adult, and as they're growing up, I tend to like more let loose of some of those things that I used to have. Yeah, Yeah, because I also want them to grow in their own space. Yeah, because I feel like some of these things also are curtailing them growing to who they want to be.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. But even as we try to wrap our heads around some of these things, as we're saying, some of them are just funny. You know,
Yeah.
it's what you grew up doing. If they were eating bananas, it's your favorite food.
Yeah.
Ikiwa hapo, itaisha. But then again, what should you be aware of? You mentioned about the things you need to let go and how you need to process them. But what are some of the things you need to hang on to and believe that this is just who I am? And perhaps this is what I might have to pass on to my kids.
Yeah. Being tidy is very important. Yeah. Time management, waking up early, being calm, being firm. Most mothers brought up, and I like what Steve said about spaghetti.
Yes.
That is not a bad trait. That's a good trait. As in, you need to be full at night so that you can sleep very well. Yeah. So you be firm, being neat, be independent, understanding who you are. And that's what most parents were trying to train the children. Yeah. Just understand who is you as an individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the things we did not like growing up and now we do them today, is it because we now realize that they're actually pertinent in surviving?
They're very important, working hard.
Yes.
Remember, growing up, if you're by age, we were actually working hard, and working for yourself was part of the things we saw our parents doing. Parents would wake up and actually go and actually source and work hard, and people would walk. You actually see your parents looking for school fees. As in, those are the things we grew up seeing, and then we also saw our parents helping a lot, helping relatives, helping neighbors, and we grew up in a community where a neighbor would knock your door and borrow salt. Yeah, anything. It would be so much. We were so much together that you didn't know who a real uncle is. Yeah, and a real auntie is. But now the world has changed. You need to know, we are really protecting our children because of everything that we are seeing on the news. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there are many things that we grew up seeing that we seem to be dropping for also our own selfish reasons also. Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that in a moment. But even as we try to understand how it started and how it's going today for some of us, let's take a look at some of the videos we put together that depict what some people think who your friends, or rather who your parents were, and how you would describe them given a chance. Blink while talking to your parents. Did you just roll your eyes at me? Whoever got that? Oh my. Yeah, some of us have had to deal with this, yet there was something in your eye. Okay, let's have something else. African Mom Challenge. How your mom looks at you when the pastor says some people here don't obey their parents. Do we have an amen? And I think this is what Stanley was talking about, those daggers. All right, if we can have another one. Calls you a disgrace at home, brags about you in public. My God, yes, this is so true. And you even wonder, who are you? Yeah, so this is something that a lot of us relate with. When an African mother sees you relaxing. Yes, somebody help me understand, why was it such a problem for you to just sit and chill? Why? Oh, I can even feel that question in Kikuyu. Did my parents really love me? I look like a corrupt government official. My God, why did they make us wear oversized clothes? And the reason was, we will grow into them. I see people smiling because they know they've done the same to their own kids. Economy ni ngumu bwana. Another one here, an African Mom Challenge. Mom, get me a glass of water. Me, to drink. No, to baptize your sister. Oh my, those obvious questions. Oh my God. Oh, I'm really hoping my mother is watching this morning, because some of the things she said to me, I really wondered. When you fail all your exams and your mom asks for the remote and you give it to her and she says, at least you can pass something. Man, oh, our folks were rough. I don't know how it's going today, but yeah, they were rough. If we have something else, me tries to hold a thermos. Mom, hebu achana na hiyo thermos, sitaki uiangushe vile ulianguka mtihani. Why? Why did they have to rub it in? Another one. Oh, those punishments. Oh, dear Lord. If you know, you know. Honestly speaking, some of the things we had to go through just because we did not do the right things. Well, I see the smiles on your faces, and I'd like to get everyone talking about this because, I mean, we all have a story to tell. And I'll start with Stanley and Sophie. For you, Sophie, when you think about some of the things you went through, especially when it came to the punishment or to the handling when you are not on the right side of things, what are some of those things that you said, Aki, honestly speaking, this is not even fair. I don't even think it's it's degrading my human rights.
Well, me, when I think of my mom, I think there's a way you'd be beaten, yani, you feel like a thug. Yeah. You know, that slipper is thrown at you. In fact, there's this joke that the slipper will follow you through all the corners. You know, it goes with you. And I just feel that sometimes, and there were times really, you probably had an explanation. It was probably not even your fault, but there was no room to explain. It was an infraction had been done, and you were taking the hit of it. It didn't matter whether you were part of it or you were not part of it, and especially where there was this thing that I just felt was unfair, where it's one of the siblings that has done something wrong, but you all take the hit. You know, you're all beaten, and you're all punished for it. And I'm like, that is so unfair, you know, because maybe some of us were not, you know, part of the issue that had happened. So for me, I think, Yani, that was the painful part.
Which born are you?
The last born. So.
And yet you still got the flack.
Yes, because it's very easy for everyone else to pass it down, you know?
Oh, okay, interesting. Stanley, for you, what are those things that you're like, no, this I cannot do?
I remember there was one point, my mom, her drawer, by accident, the house manager poured GV on her lingerie. But because I was branded the naughty one at home, my mom just came raining on me with blows, my coffee, nini, and it felt like abuse. Because that's why I think most of us were beaten like that. So I really tried to defend myself. Like, it was not me, mom, but she was not listening. Because mom's way was the right way. So growing up with my kids, I've learned to listen first. You know, let them explain. I take the time to listen to what they say, analyze it with them. Like, are you making sense? Can you hear what you're saying? Do you understand what you're saying? So I've had to learn not to discipline in anger. I first chill and listen to what I have to say.
And jump into conclusions.
And not jump into conclusions, yeah.
Very well said. And how did you adapt to these things as an adult, when it came to punishment especially? Sophie?
With the children?
No, to yourself as an adult, before you became a parent and got married.
Yes.
I mean, you're dealing with these issues even as you're growing up and becoming a person of your own, you know, as in you can stand on your own 2 feet. So what kind of impact did it have?
I think a bit of low esteem, you know, and also, you know, finding yourself. I found myself in some situations struggling with you know, low confidence, you know, because you're coming from a point of where you are rarely heard, you know, where you are always being, you know, put down or punished for things that you may not have done, okay, and may not always have been, you know, all the time the same. But you see, what that does to you is that you're not able to stand up for yourself. Yeah, you find there are times you're not able to stand up for yourself, you're not able to articulate yourself, you know, you're not able to defend yourself because you're always used to being bombarded. You know, you're always used to not being given a chance to explain yourself. And so those are some of the things I think as I grew up into adulthood, I found myself struggling with, and then I was starting to, you know, learning to unlearn, you know, some of those things that I had picked unknowingly.
Interesting. And for you, Stanley, do you concur, or were you the abrasive one now with the defense mechanism checking in?
I think because of being tooped probably too much, if I can choose the right word, I became defensive on all fronts. Anybody who would come up to me, I'm always ready, like, let's go, you know, why are you accusing me?
Yeah.
So I was more on the abrasive side, always ready to defend myself, because growing up, I think I was never heard. So now I decided to go to the gym, become big, and then fight my way out of everything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, now you can clearly see so far the impact your growing up or how you were brought up has on you as an adult, and also by extension, the parent you become. When we come back from this short break, we'll hear from Liz and Steve, even as they help us understand what are some of those things that really were, you know, going by the memes, things they really wish their parents didn't do to them, and how they handled them in their adult life. We'll be right back.
Do you know that decluttering our household is a great way to discover new ways to make some money? I'm in Nairobi, Kenya to explore the existing potential for those who are just decluttering or are simply on a tight budget and need money.
We meet two Ivorian childhood friends who run a hair salon in France, focusing on the African diaspora clientele. They have embraced a novel subscription business model.
Ghanaian weddings are known for their rich culture, the splendor and glamour. I am attending a wedding in Accra to find out what strategies wedding vendors have taken to sustain their businesses in this COVID-19 period.
Wow, thank you for your time. How juicy.
Juicy.
Here, thanks to Notify Mall. Shop from hundreds of online shops at our mega malls along Moi Avenue in Nairobi and Moi Avenue in Mombasa. Notify Mall, all your favorite online brands under one roof.
Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can open an account and lipa pole pole at your convenience? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can get customized sizes according to your roof plan to avoid wastage? Did you know Ruiru Mabati Factory offers free delivery countrywide within 72 hours? Call us now on 0111 050 700. Ruiru Mabati Factory, mali safi kwa bei poa.
For an exclusive fragrance experience, try Nivea Men Deep Impact Body Lotion with a long-lasting woody fragrance, deep moisture, and a fresh skin feel. Make an impact with Nivea Men Deep Impact. Nivea Men, it starts with you.
All the days and the nights, reading for them and to them. You don't stop, and neither do we. Help build a strong foundation for your growing child with Nestle Nunkid. Nestle Nunkid 4. Our best for you.
I understand that you don't want to believe it, but maybe something happened to the DNA test you sent to the lab.
No, I can't accept that you love that maid more than you loved me. Let's see how long that so-called love lasts.
You'd be a hindrance in my life, and I was not mistaken. But now, without Renata and Bella de Guadalupe, you have nothing to do here by my side.
Yummy. I know, Nitamu. It's no surprise. The good quality baked bread from Bole is festive. Chukua yako moja leo.
Ni swala ambalo limetatiza mafisi wengi. Huenda ikawa anayepiga simu anataka kukula fea, ama msupa amejipa kiroho safi. Nduru za kuaminika zimetufikia ya kwamba
to get more mafisi, dial star 811 star 935 hash. Skiza, Nan Nation.
Style Heights, a prestigious gated community in a tranquil environment offering elegantly styled 2 or 3 and a 3-bedroom plus a DSQ apartment, combining tasteful design and modern amenities. Contact us on 0706 155 277 or 0726 205 208.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gashanja. Today, we are trying to understand the psychology of parenting. You know how it is that you ended up being your folks, and there's some things that they did, how they carry themselves that you said, I'll never be, but for some reason it caught up with you. And perhaps some of us are trying to understand how you can undo the same so that you can be a better person and also a better parent to your own children. And still with us, Rosalind Keegan, who is a marriage and family therapist, Stanley and Sophie Nabuliri, and of course Liz and Steve Kiteto. Thank you guys for being so candid on this one. Now let me throw the same question to Lizzie and Steve. So we looked at the memes earlier. Some of them we laugh about them today, but when they were happening to us, we were not happy. So let me start with Steve this time. What are some of those things that really made you sad?
I think well, first, some of those memes were very interesting. The corrupt government official one, especially.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think for me, what I remember was because of my personality and the love for outdoors, I would always have like a 50-50 concentration in a way that, you know, because the parents of our generation really valued education, so that you needed to have this consistent number 1, number 2, but I would fluctuate quite a bit between maybe 1 and 8. And that didn't please my parents. But I had a brother who was ahead of me, who I'm sure is watching, who was always number 1. And so at some point, I don't know what happened. When I look back now, with the understanding I have, it must have been a growth spurt at age 9, where now I began topping the class. But then my dad, when you know, guests would come, I remember just a couple of comments, and I don't think he's ever had this before, is no, the class, you know, this one's very good, but this one, their class is not very competitive. You know, when my brother's being told that he's done very well, I'll be told you're number 1 because your class is not competitive.
Kwa hivyo ni bahati tu.
That taught me, even at an early age,
yeah.
You know, I knew like, how is it that when I show up with my number 1 or number 2, our class is not competitive? And we all in the same school. And so that was just the feeling that maybe they don't fully understand my potential. And that, I think, sort of sent me in a very ironically positive way to explore my own line of things. To date, I mean, I've taken careers and things I do that are very independent from what you know, would have been expected. You know, did a degree in economics, but I'm a trainer. I'm in the outdoors. I follow my passion because I began determining, I think I'll just do my thing. I don't want to wait for affirmation, even though I crave for it. And it was a mixed bag. So my dad would give both ways, and my mom as well. My mom was more consistent. My dad would give both ways. So that's one that I think I remember. And it's the idea of how do you learn and understand your child enough to be able to you know, understand what exactly is going on. But again, his personality is one of those. I don't think he meant it. It's, you know, he has a sanguine side of him that he just say things as they come, and I don't even think he remembers anything that he said for that day.
Okay, how about you, Lizzie?
I think I concur with Stanley. For me, it was just that being beaten without being understood. There's one time I stole 2 bob. I stole 2 bob because I didn't have a pen And my mom was asleep, and we just had maybe our last born, and I didn't want to wake her up, so I decided, let me just I don't have a pen, I don't want to be beaten in school. Well, when I came back home, my mom was waiting for me at the gate. Na kiboko, I knew the school kids are passing. I was chapad for everyone in the school knew I had been beaten that day because I stole money. So for me, I kept telling myself, I will never do that to my kids. I'll not embarrass them in public. And then I would let them explain and then walk down the road of explaining why this is wrong and why you should not do this. For me, the effect that it had for me was that I second-guessed myself a lot. And I was self-aware enough by the time I was living by myself to know that I can make my own decisions. But it affected how I made my decisions. I had to think, is this the right thing? Is this what I want? But now when I live by myself, I had to do all those things by myself. So that I grew out of it. But then I could see the effect it had on me when I was in campus. I asked myself a lot of questions. I never just totally expressed myself. Like self-expression was dampened by just the fact that someone was always looming over me saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, and you can't express.
Oh, wow. Great perspectives there. Before we hear from Keegan, the psychology behind that and the impact it has on kids growing up, we have a caller on the line. That is Eric from Trans Nzoia. What is your question or comment? Eric? Tafadhali punguza volume ya TV yako.
Punguza kabisa.
Aya, niambie.
I calling from Kaptama, you can border.
Bado niko na feedback. Kuna kitu haujazima jameni.
Okay. Iko sawa.
Okay, let's first get your call, or rather the connection good, and then we'll get back to you. And just listening to the couples, and you clearly can tell that the impact a parent has on their kids, whether it's how you handle the child or what you say to them, they carry with to their adulthood, and perhaps also might pass it on to the children that they're bringing today. Talk about why this is so key for a parent to be aware of some of these things.
When an adult comes for therapy in my clinic, we do something called a genogram. A genogram is basically something that you look at the traits. Because you've come to me and tell me I have anger issues or I have self-esteem issues, and I feel like I'm abusing too much or I'm alcoholic too much. So what you do is we draw your it's like a family tree. A genogram is like a family tree. So we want to trace where this anger is coming from, where this self-esteem has come from. Yeah, and more often than not, when you draw a genogram for both sides of a parent, we pick out that self-esteem came from either the mother or the father. And when you grow up and look at it, it might have maybe come from the grandmother. Yeah. So maybe the grandmother was abusive. And there's both physical or even emotional abuse, financial abuse. Yeah. Maybe you are not even beaten, but the words that your parents were telling you brought down your self-esteem and made you not to be an independent, confident child that you're supposed to be. Yeah. And the other thing is some people also rebel. Yeah. So in terms of like, I don't want to be as strict or as clean or as my parents. So what happens? You go to the other side and become very not unkempt. Yeah, you go into drugs because you're rebelling against what you came from, especially parents from Christian families. We have people coming in for clinics saying, my dad was very, my mom or my dad were very spiri, and I just don't want that, and I'm rebelling against it. That's why I'm drinking too much, yeah, and I still don't know myself, yeah. I'm hiding myself into friends. Yeah, going even, your parents told you those kind of friends were not good, but that's what you go for because you're rebelling against what they never listen to you. And I like what she's called Susan.
Lizzie.
Lizzie said, yeah, they were not, her parents were not listening to her. And it happens even to me. They don't listen to you. So when you get up anyone who wants to listen to you, that's when now you go to that group. So when you come for therapy, is we do a lot of, we trace. That's what you call processing. Now, self-esteem didn't come from today. It came from when you were 3. Something might have happened. Maybe you were beaten and you were told you'll never amount to anything. Ama we mjinga kama mama yako. Or just something. Or how can you, or comparing. And what Steve brought it up. Comparing you to your brother. Yeah. And not all your children are A's. Yeah. But the most important thing is bring up children with good characters. So when you try and compare, beat, abuse, and words that you think that for you they are okay, but for this child will pick it up. I tell you what, Gladys, I had a client who graduate, very serious guy, but he was told by the mom that you're the one who's messing up the grades from the school. How comes everyone else in that school is passing and not you? Yeah. Wendo nafunga. In fact, the words he told me is wendo nafunga mlango ya gate ya shule. Means everyone else is passing. You are the one who's left behind and closing the gate. That boy never had self-esteem. And that was class 8. Until the day he came for therapy and was asking, why am I like this? Why can I not find myself? And when we trace back to that, the mom telling him that wendo nafunga gate ya shule. You are that stupid, you can't make it. And he was given everything. He had the shoes, he had the best school and everything. But just that one word just messed up his life. So we need to process. What are these things that are making you behave that way? Yeah.
Now, for us who need to process back to understand why we behave the way we do, perhaps as a reflection of our parents, how about the parents who are perhaps saying these things to, motivate their children to be better than they are, but just using the wrong words? What would be your advice to them?
Family is very systemic. It's like a tree. It touches branches. That's why, in fact, in my family therapy, we are trying to be very systemic and we trace back. So more than not is when a client comes and says, and we trace back to something that was said, something that was done. We always ask, is it okay if I talk to your parent? Or do you want to write a letter, or do you want to talk to your mom and tell your mom some of those? You need to go back and I'll tell your mom, some of those words you are telling me really hurt me. And the results I've gotten are very positive. Because now your parents are old. They are like in the 70s and old. They are at a place where they want really to make peace. And they do not know that what they said, it was hurting. For them, that's how they grew up. They grew up being told all those things, that you're lazy, you're stupid, all those things. They had no idea. Most parents have got no idea those things that you're saying to their children are hurting them. But when you go with and inform them, the mom or dad, the things you say, the things you do are hurting, and that's what that has made me even go for therapy. More than not, parents change. They listen. They listen. And the ones who, if you still have that fear, what we encourage is do journal. We encourage you to journal. Just journal your fears and then bring them in for therapy, and then we can read that letter. Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm told that we have Eric back on the line from Trans Nzoia. Eric, what's your question or comment?
Hello.
Habari yako, Eric?
Salama sana. Unanipata vizuri?
Ne, tunakupata.
Iko sambamba sana. Nikataka kuuliza hao wataalamu kwamba Hello?
Yes.
Ningependa kuuliza wataalamu ikiwa unajua siku hizi vijana wamesumbuka sana.
Tunakupata, endelea. Tunakupata. Okay, we seem to be struggling with Eric, but hey, he'll get back to us as soon as he can. But remember, those numbers on your screen is how you can reach us. But remember, our question of the day also to you is, what are some of the things your parents did or said while growing up that you saw you'll never do, but you found yourself doing today? That hashtag is new normal. Do we have some of the feedback? If I can have that on the screen. Let's have that on the screen. Fabio Capello says that football will not take me anywhere, but now that's my job. Look at that, Fabio. Thank God you actually made the best out of it. Haron Serma says, maisha ni yako, sai yangu. Sai ni yangu kweli. Okay, I hear you. The fact that I brought you to this world means that I own you. Okay, Haron, we hear you. Josephine Kioko says, hiyo kitu ya kupanguza watoto mbele ya watu iko kwa damu. You mean the saliva thing? Unajipatanga too. Mothers don't like embarrassment, especially from their kids. Josephine, I hear you. I have done it myself, and when I do, I always laugh out loud because I can hear myself telling my mom, Mom. So when my son says it back to me, I'm like, oh dear Lord, who have I become? But let's get on with this conversation. And Sophie and Stanley, there are some things that clearly, as a parent now, you understand why your folks did what they did when you were growing up. For example, do you remember the curfew issue? Did you have a curfew in your home? And if you went against that, hell will break loose? I see Sophie agreeing with me. What was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, there was, you'd be allowed to go out to play, but there was a certain time within which you need to be at home. My God, and if you even just came home late by 1 minute, it was an issue. Looking back, at that point, it was, why is mom overreacting? I mean, I'm just here, I'm in the estate. But, now being a mother myself, I understand, I understand why she did what she did. There was the whole issue of even just, one, there's the whole issue of being obedient, of being able to follow instructions, and being able to be responsible with the freedom you have been given, because it goes a long way even as you grow up, as you become an adult. And even now with my own kids, it's one, also to protect them. You're also teaching them to be able to manage their time well. They know when they're supposed to do stuff, and at the right time. So yeah, I mean, when I look back at curfew, you sort of just want to play out and be out there for like forever. But those limits sort of train you to be able to be responsible with the freedom that you've been given.
There you go. So how do you handle your kids, Stanley, when it comes to now that kind of stuff, and also just letting them be kids, but also understand parameters?
So as parents, we set parameters which should be adhered to. And, but children need to be children at the end of the day. They have to play, they have to grow, they have to learn things, they're curious. They're always wanting to find out what is happening. So for us, basically, we set parameters in the home, as I said. For example, TV. Sometimes from Monday to Friday, there's basically no TV. And understand, especially during school days, no TV. But now come Friday night or Saturday, they want to watch TV. But we put a cap. Maybe by 9 o'clock, TV is done and should go to sleep. So they'll insist, oh, Dad, you've been unfair. Why you not let us watch TV? But I remind them, the TV is going nowhere. And this is something my mom used to tell me. Eat TV and pali. And now that I'm a grown-up person, TV is boring. No offense. With our generation, the social media and everything, you got all the information that you want. Yeah. So we try and tell them TV is there. If it's ice cream, especially in terms of food, you give them grapes or ice cream. They want to finish at one go. So you tell them there's a balance to everything. And too much of something is poison. So you tell them, think about tomorrow. You don't have to finish something today. So yeah, as Sophie said, parameters are important. And the children need to align within the parameters. So as parents, you need to set guidelines.
And it's just really about, because with those parameters that you give and the curfews that you're putting, as I said, you're training. It's a training even into adulthood, isn't it, right? You're able to work within the freedom that you're given. It's like the way we say, if you're driving and there's a curve and there's a barrier, that barrier is there for a reason, isn't it? Yeah. The barrier is there to protect you from the car from falling over a cliff. Yes. Yeah. It's not there to make your life any worse. It's actually there to make your life good, isn't it? So you have the freedom to drive on that road, but then there's that barrier that's supposed to protect you from falling over. And so it's the same thing then applies with the children, with the curfew and these other parameters you're putting. It's not that you put it because you want to make their life miserable. You don't want them to enjoy their childhood, right? But you're putting them there to enable them, yes, enjoy their childhood, but within parameters that will protect them and will train them even as they grow up.
Very well said. Lizzie and Steve, I mean, growing up, it really was so annoying, if I must say that, when your folks just kept telling you which friends to hang out with and those that you shouldn't hang out with. And I remember thinking, why do you have to poke your nose in my business and I don't yours? But now as a parent, I understand better. Lizzie, has this realization come to you?
Yeah, it has. I think we have had instances where I have had to tell my kids, I don't think that's a good friend for you. But give them reasons why and what it is I'm seeing and what it is that we've been learning. And that's why that person is a negative friend for them. And our lines are always open. So we talk about a lot of things. And we talk about what kind of friends should you have? Why are they good for you? And why do we talk about your friends are the ones who show you, who make you become who you are? So they have come to the point where they come and say, I actually realized that person was not a good friend. So there are times I'm having to let go and let them experience the friend and experience those negative things that I'm seeing for them to come back and say, Enyewe, you are right. You see, for us, there's nothing like that. It was nisikuone na huyo msichana. Huyo msichana ni mbaya. And it was not said in these are the reasons why. Kids really want to have reasons. It has to make sense to them. With our kids is very different. It has to make sense. If it's not making sense, they'll push the boundaries. And when they push the boundaries, then as parents, we come out hard. But then it's just because they don't understand and we don't understand how they think and how they want to reason. Yeah.
And speaking about things that don't make sense, but they're good for the kids, and now in retrospect, we can say that. Steve, you do remember being forced to eat some things you didn't like growing up, but today you're forcing your own kids to do the same because you know the value it gives them. Example, spinach, vegetables. We hated eating those things. But Leos, in your city, we are forcing our children. What's your experience?
Now, interesting enough, I actually don't have my memory things that I didn't like. But one that I remember, when I was around a teenager, and my parents did some farming in the little piece of land that is sort of around our house. And so my dad sent me to go get some manure, sort of like across the small town that we lived. So it was like the other side. That as a teenager was not cool at all. Like, why would I push a wheelbarrow through? My friends are seeing me. It was the time when reputation had begun to matter for me at that time. But then my dad had a pep talk with me and just said, do you know why we are doing this? Why we're bringing the manure? Yes. Do you know the reasons? Yes. So don't worry about what people are saying, what people will think. And that sort of released me. And I went and did the assignment, and it has lived with me as a principle that do whatever you need to do, and don't think of what other people are saying, as long as you know your big why. And so I've been pushing this to our children when their reputations begin to matter as well. We are preteens, and I'm like, no, but you know why you're doing it. And so I begin to have that pep talk as well. I realized what my dad did then. Thankfully, it made sense at that time, very early on. And so now I'm passing it down to our children in terms of it's okay to be different. You don't have to be like all the other kids. It's okay not to have a phone when you're 9 or 10, and you would die. You'll be fine. And so there's just things you can have a very clear stand, and you don't have to explain to anyone as long as you know why you're doing them. And just like Lizzie has said, it's being able to explain to them why we're doing things. They may still, push back a bit, but deep down, they're getting it.
I hear you. And Rosalind, I think what I'm hearing from everyone is that the things that were good for us is just how the communication was done.
Yeah.
Talk about the importance of this.
Wow, that is key. That is key. And when we do parenting classes, once in a while I go talk to a group of parents, just having a parenting seminar, a parenting workshop. The key thing that I always say parents is You know, when you're working for an organization, you have the organization key objectives. You have the organization mission. And if I ask them, what is your key objective for your work today, or what is the mission of Nation Media, you'll tell me. But when I ask you, so what are the values or objective of your family? Give me just 5 on top of your mind. And are your children aware of them? Most of parents don't have them. And ask yourself, why do organizations have those objectives, have those values, that have missions that each and every employer, each and every person, should know? Simply, it's because when you internalize those things, whether you go to another organization, you'll still remember the mission of Nation Media. You'll still remember your key objective of Nation Media. You'll still remember them because it's a daily song. It's every day, and you see them everywhere, posted everywhere. Yeah, and this is what we need to do as parents. It helps a lot, and it avoids a lot of wordings from you if you sit down with your children. And I would say this because I have adult children. My children are working. And it has helped a lot because we put down with my husband values, 5, don't put many, just 5 key values that you want your children to grow up with. Yeah, that in this family we don't. If we fight, we have to make up. Yeah, time, communication, respect of others, respect of everything. Yeah, and those are the things. So when your child comes and makes a mistake, you ask them, what do we stand for? As the Keegans, what do we stand for? We don't lie. So why did you lie? And it resonates with them each and every day because it's a daily thing. And even as you grow up, there's some things, Gladys, you cannot do today because your mom kept on telling you this and this and this.
Oh, she's still in my ear.
She's still in your ear.
She's still in my ear,
Yeah. So for now, instead of having all those things jumbled up, why don't you just structure them and they just keep on telling, and especially parents of little children, and as young as even before you get your children, sit down with your spouse and bring up the values. And as the children are growing up, because values change, things change, and put on a notice board in their house. I know what, as they grow up and go to campus,
yes,
yeah, and they're left alone. That is what they'll hold on to. Those are the values they'll hold on to as they're growing up. And those are the values that will make them choose friends. They won't choose friends away from those values. Of course, they'll push boundaries. Expected. If you don't see your child pushing a little bit of boundaries, there's something they're hiding. They cannot have 100%. There's something. Yeah, so they'll push boundaries. But I remember when my daughter was abroad doing her master's, when I went to visit her, I was so shocked. I was so impressed. I was like, what? I did my bit as a mom. Yeah. So those are the things that will help you, even when you're releasing them to the world, putting them life skills, will help you release them and know, you know what? God, I did my part. If I know I failed a little bit, but at least I did my part as a parent. So it's very important to put up values and let everyone in your family know the value that you stand for as a family.
Oh, wow. Very well put. And yes, we live at a different time where we have this kind of information being told to us. So we can do better with our kids, as much as our parents were also trying it out without much information. But here we are to actually pass on the best we can to the next generation. Now, we're going to take a short break on your world, but even as we do, now that this conversation also has a lot of how it began and how is it going, I'd like to take you down memory lane for some of the people that perhaps you know and have been following their careers, but kila mtu alianza pahali, and these are some of the pictures we were able to put together. Here we go. Do you recognize who that is? Dennis Okari, your investigative editor at NTV. And of course, as you know, Mungu alimwonekania. That is how he looks like today. And I can imagine each of these people we'll see today have a story in the in-between. Can you figure out who that is? Well, that's Dan Mule. That's how it started for him. And as we know, he is an editor here on the Kiswahili desk. Hata Yesu alimuonekania. We thank God for that. Now, your favorite reporter, Seth Olale, pia ametoka mbali. So that is how it started for him. And this is who he is today. Oh yes, mashavu yako kwa wingi. The good Lord has been good. That's how he's doing today. Now, Salim Swale. That is him when he was younger. How it started for him, and today, as you know, he is the Kiswahili editor, and this is how it's going for him. Again, each of these people have a story in between to tell about how or what they would have done different. Mark Masai, yes, as you know, he's under war. There he is, being the Moran, he is. Yes, that's how it started for him, and as you know, he brings to you the news here on NTV. We celebrate him, and again, he has actually quite a tale to tell of how he is or how far he has come. Now, we take a short break. I see. Oh, yeah, you're asking where mine is. It's coming up after this short break. But hey, we talk more about the impact of our parenting to date. We really are tackling the psychology of parenting right after this break.
Get yourself an aerial decoder plus 1 month free classic bouquet at only 999 Kenya shillings, or a satellite dish decoder plus 30 days free smart bouquet at 2,699 Kenya shillings.
What do you think about Molfix?
Actually, another brand was recommended to me, but it had a leakage problem. Then I decided to try Molfix. His clothes don't get wet anymore.
Because Molfix provides extra protection against leakage thanks to its anti-leakage elastic barriers. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
Mwezi Februari mwaka huu, visa vya maambukizi vya virusi vya polio yaliripotiwa katika kaunti za Garissa na Mombasa kutokana na mchamko katika nchi majirani. Kuanzia Jumamosi ya tarehe 17 mwezi huu hadi Jumatano ya tarehe 21, maafisa wa Wizara ya Afya pamoja na wadau wengine wataendesha kampeni ya nyumba hadi nyumba kutoa chanjo ya polio katika kaunti 13 zinazokabiliwa na hatari kubwa ya mchamko wa maradhi hayo. Wahudumu watakaotoa chanjo hiyo watazingatia kanuni za kudhibiti korona kama vile kuvaa barakoa wakati wote, kuweka umbali unaofaa na kutakasa mikono. Kina mama wanaombwa kusaidia katika utoaji chanjo kwa watoto. Chanjo ya polio na chanjo nyinginezo zimepimwa na kuidhinishwa na Wizara ya Afya. Chanjo inakinga. Mpeleke mtoto wako apate chanjo leo kwa afya bora siku za usoni. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Wizara ya Afya, UNICEF na WHO.
Along came love.
I can't let you do this because you don't deserve the happiness you stole from your sister. I deserve to have it all! You'll have to kill me first! Let go of me! I swear you're going to get what you wish for, Mother, because I won't think twice about killing you. Let go of me!
Along came love.
For investment solutions, SMS INVEST to 22801. UAP Old Mutual. We've got you covered. Doing great things every day.
Ni super poa kuvaa barakoa. Ni super poa kuvaa barakoa. Je, unajua kwamba mtu yeyote mwenye umri wa miaka 6 au zaidi anaweza kuwa superhero kwa kuvaa barakoa? Ndiyo kabisa, anaweza. Kama hujafikisha miaka 6, usijali. Wewe pia unaweza kuwa superhero kwa kuwakumbusha ndugu zako na wazazi wako wavae barakoa zao. Kuvaa barakoa kunasaidia kujilinda wewe na kuwalinda wengine dhidi ya virusi. Ni super poa kuvaa barakoa.
Lifestyle Heights, a prestigious gated community in a tranquil environment offering elegantly styled 2 or 3 and a 3-bedroom plus a DSQ apartment, combining tasteful design and modern amenities. Contact us on 0706 155 277 or 0726 205 208.
Thank you for staying with Your World this morning. We are understanding the psychology of parenting. I mean, how is it that you said there's some things you will never do like your parents did, and today you find yourself doing it and you wonder why? Well, still with Rosaline and of course the couples in their house, Stanley and Sophie, and Lizzie and Steve. And even as we are coming to the realization that there is great impact on how we were parented to the adults we are today and the parents we are to our children, Sophie and Steve, how are you being intentional about undoing some of the things or unlearning some of the things that you know are not really good traits? Sophie.
I mean, first, you just, as a parent, I did parenting classes, I think, in 2008. And the first thing, you know, when you do parenting class and when you start reflecting about parenting, the first thing when you go in with is it's about the children, until you realize that you need to grow up fast as a parent before you can start bringing up your children. And when I say, you know, grow up as a parent, what does that mean? Then that entails unlearning some of the things that are negative to you that you wouldn't want to pass down to your children, you know. And having to also deal with some of the issues like Rosin was saying, you know. Do you have anger issues? Do you have self-esteem issues, you know? How are you interacting with your children? You know, be very alert and conscious to pick those things and being very deliberate and constantly reminding yourself, you know. And it does take a lot of work, you know. You have to keep, you know, reminding yourself, you know, like as Lizzie was saying, you know, if you find yourself shouting, you quickly, you know, you're quick to pick it and to halt, you know. But the more intentional you are, the slowly and gradually you get there. Because again, it's not something that happens overnight. But that intentionality then keeps you alert, you know, it keeps you going. So even as you're interacting with your children, as you're training them, as you're instructing them, you're being very cautious, you know, to not be negative. You're being very cautious to pick on the things that you don't want them. You know, you pick on the things that you don't want to pass down to them in a negative way. So, you know, maybe I'll give an example just to bring it home. So my mom, I mean, she taught me a lot of things that I'm so grateful for, you know, hard work, respect, honor, you know, decency, how do you carry yourself? And she was very strict, you know, a very dominant parent. But then I realized that there's the one thing Mom didn't quite have, you know, was the affection, you know, just that affirmation that you give a child, you know, just the hugging and the holding hand. It goes a long way just to reaffirming to a child that the parent loves them. And for me, one of the things that I picked is one of my daughters, you know, she loves her hand being held. You know, when we're at home, she'll want to come and cuddle with me on the couch. And so I realized earlier on I was struggling with that because I wanted my space. I'm like, hey, you know, see, there's space on the other side of the couch. And it's until, you know, Stanley pointed out to me and said, you know, for Shana, this is her way of affirmation. And for me, then I was quickly to able to pick it because I didn't quite have experienced that sense of affection. And not to say that mom didn't love me, she just had her own way of showing it, right? And so for me, just having to unlearn and quickly picking when my daughter comes to cuddle, just quickly being alert and you know, cuddling with her. If we are walking in the mall and she slides her hand and she wants mommy to hold her hand, in as much as I'm thinking, can we just walk? Everyone can just walk without being held.
Yes.
Just being quickly to remember, okay, this is her way of affirmation. This is her way of knowing that mommy loves me, mommy, you know, mommy cares for me, you know. And so just being so intentional and deliberate about that.
All right. Now, before I hear from Stanley, let me hear from Lizzie, because as I say, male, female, we process these things a little bit differently, though we all have the same goal in mind. Lizzie, for you, what have you been intentional about?
I feel like we had the same mom. I don't know, Stella. Do you have the same mom? Anyway, I think I've had the same experience where one of my daughters really has her language of love is touch, and she would smell, she would lick, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be so, you know. And then I realized that because I came from a home where the physical affection was not given, then I didn't have it and I didn't want it and I didn't, you know. So I have had to be very intentional that when she comes and she wants to be hugged or to be touched or to have her hair touched, I mean, I do the same thing. I'm like, Sutembe, you have your own legs, everyone has their own hands, everyone is going, let's all go. But she wants to have her hand held, she wants to have her head touched. I had to be intentional. And one other really important thing for me has been when I really want to shout, to like look at them in the face. That looking at them really helps me to see where they're at before I react, because then I'm coming from my own irritability. So just basically, what did we call it? Regulating myself before I can regulate her. So really being intentional about talking to them when I'm looking at them in the face and trying to decipher where is this coming from before I can react. So that has, yeah.
And how about when the anger has overcome you? They say, walk away, deal with it later, perhaps you'll do it better. Does this work for you?
It does. So there's pause and reflect. I know Steve Covey has done a lot of that. You pause and reflect. So you pause at that point. You can feel it boiling, and sometimes it will be instant justice. Well, you don't always get it right. And for me, it has happened. I've given instant justice. So I'm like, by the way, get out of, you know, like, it's crazy. You've done this, and I want to chapa you. But a lot of times, I find myself, I catch myself. Pause, walk away, and then let's talk about it later. Yeah, it has worked for me. To just pause.
Now, I have Cynthia here who says some of us had so many near-death experiences when your folks or the folks were very angry. So it's interesting to actually hear pausing and reflecting. Rosalie?
Yeah, true. We need to, there's a famous Gordon Ramsay. I think almost everyone knows him. He's the very famous chef. Okay. And if you look at his story and if you see how he curses, he abuses, he pushes, and he has this program of Hell's Kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you look at his story, you want to feel sorry for Gordon Ramsay, because what happens is he came from an abusive home. The father bet up, not once, several times his mother, almost near death. And many times his mother was taken to hospital because the father was very alcoholic and abusive. And when he started talking about where he's coming from, and I remember that clip. It's on YouTube. Anyone can get it. He's telling guys is that I realize I'm becoming my father as much as I hated him. I realize I'm becoming my father. I have all this talent. I can cook. I can all do this. But anything small, you mess my kitchen, he abuses you. He tells you also. And we've seen that. Yeah. And he actually went now, reflected, and went back for help. And he was encouraged to start talking about it. That's when all of a sudden you realize Hell's Kitchen stopped production. He went for help. And he was going around talking, especially to men, on how to deal with anger issues. And most of the men that he talked to picked up from their dads. Yeah. So when I hear Liz saying that pause and reflect, that is very important. And maybe people need to start reading about mindfulness. Mindfulness is very nice because it makes you breathe in, breathe out, maybe count 0 to 10 and relax. And you have to really understand yourself. You have to understand, you know what? I'm getting annoyed. Do I need to deal with this issue with this child now? Or can I let it go, relax and come back? Or I call somebody else who's more relaxed to deal with it. Yeah. Because in a span of anger, we'll say things that we'll regret later. Yeah. So the best thing is just relax, breathe in, breathe out, count 1, 2, 3, 10, take a walk and come back, and then we deal with that. But more than not, most of the angers we deal with are coming from somewhere, not very far from somewhere within. And it's all systemic, and that somewhere is just within the family.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, and now that you've talked about fathers and the impact they have on their sons, let me hear from the men. Stanley, what are the things that perhaps you struggle with and you're very intentional about undoing?
So before I answer the question, remember the good book says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they'll depart far from it. They should not depart far from it. So we need, as parents, need to tell ourselves who is raising our children. Because for children, it's more of monkey see, monkey do. We'll instruct them, but they copy what we model to them. And I have 2 daughters, as I said, 13 and 7. So we pride ourselves by saying we have 20 years experience in parenting. And for my girls, I've learned to come to say sorry to them. It's not something my parents did towards me. I'd be beaten for no reason sometimes. I'd be blamed for so many instances, and it would hurt. Because you've not been told, you're really trying to tell me it's not my fault, but you're still being topped. So with my daughters, I've come to learn to say sorry. And telling children sorry, man, it blows their minds away. Yani. And for you, also from a man's point of view, me growing up, there was no hugging, there was no handshake with my dad. So as Sophia said, our younger one is very touchy. Her language of love is touch. So I had to learn how to hug her, hug a kid. I remember the first time, this had to come to a relation whereby I had to hug my dad one time. Imagine my whole lifetime and my dad only hugged once. And that was a very awkward scenario. And he's there tapping you on the back and thinking, Dad, this is not normal, this is not us. Men don't do this. Yeah. But because of that, going into marriage now with my children and everything, I couldn't embrace them. But because of the younger one, I had to learn. I had to unlearn the aspect of not showing affection, but I had to learn how to hug them. But more importantly, saying sorry to the children. Oh, wow. From a man's point of view, it's really important.
That is deep, man. Let me hear from Steve. What are you struggled with, and are intentional about undoing?
I have to say, I think we're fortunate. And I think Rosalind Keegan alluded to it, that there is something about generations. And so I found my grandfather very present, my dad very present, very available. There's a lot of just presence of both parents, to the extent that I would struggle a bit with that question in terms of what exactly have I struggled with, apart from what I had mentioned, that just understanding the child from who they are. And that has come because of more knowledge that I think I have accessed. From the word go after campus, I've been in training, working with parents and children, rites of passage experiences where I worked before. So I think I've had a lot of knowledge in that space. to begin reshaping the kind of parent that I would become. Just been very fortunate and blessed in that way. So by the time now we're launching out what we'll be doing now, the parenting sessions that we run, it is with that background. And also, just like Sophie and Stanley went for a parenting course and really shaped how we do our parenting based on scripture, based on the Bible, and which is what we also train. And so I think for us, and for me personally, what has really helped is reflecting on this new knowledge that I've had, but also building on the foundation, the good foundation. And I'll tell people this, that it's in campus that I realized I had a very different kind of experience for parents, because I had a parent who talked to us, and music can attest to that, to the extent that there's very few things that I have which I would say, these are really bad. I didn't like this. The only thing that I normally have is I'll be more intentional in understanding my children, and I'll be more intentional in grounding them in the faith, of what I would say by my grandfathers. And that is one heritage that I'm very intentional in doing. I don't want to leave it to chance. So that's what it has been for us so far.
All right. Before I hear Rosalind's reaction to the same, we have a caller from Kitale. Is it Tom?
Yes.
All right. Karibu sana, your question or comment?
My comment, I'm a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and I was left with these children when they were still very young.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to parental psychology, it is something very crucial to the young mind, especially in the development stage.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the kids behaving in a certain character, it shows that is the kind of character that the parent is trying to show. So it is very important, if the psychology of that child has to be developed, it must come from the father or the mother who is close to that parent.
All right.
Hacking is very important.
Mm.
And also that love. Sometimes some of us as the parents, we don't want to be close to the children. We want to leave them live the way they are. And as right now we have so many issues in the world. So it requires that parent must be very close to the child and keep all the whatever that is required for the child, provide for that child at any given time. Sometimes you sit with those children and ask, just be friendly to those children, and you will see those children will give you a lot of information about how they want the home to be managed, how they want their life to be, and also you give that kind of psychological support.
Very well said, Tom, and thank you for calling in all the way from Kitale. And Rosalind, just listening to everyone, it's interesting that the question is, what did your parents do that you saw you never do? But there's also a lot of influence about what they did not do that you craved for, that now you are intentional about providing for your children. Talk about intentionality.
Wow. Interestingly, because my therapy company is called Intentional Therapy, Intentional Parenting. As in, for a child to grow up, to have life skills and to be a good person and to be a better person in life, you need to be intentional. You need to be intentional how you communicate, what you say, your actions, your emotions, even the body language. Also, they need to be intentional, because you can say, I love you, but your body language is very opposite. You also need to be intentional, because you can't parent alone. If you realize parents, you cannot parent your child alone. You need to bring up a community that you trust, that have the same values that with you. Because as your children grow up, they'll start thinking that, mommy, they know. So it's the time now maybe introduce people in their aunties who are maybe younger than you. If you have a trusted, maybe a youth pastor, a trusted uncle that looks cool or something, those are the people now you need to start introducing them around your children. And also, children really look at what you do. As they go into teenagers, they stop listening. Now they are looking and they're observing. You call yourself, for example, you call yourself, I serve in church, I do everything. do everything. My pastor is a good friend of mine, but your actions at home do not relate to what you say. In your house, you're abusing the house help. When a visitor comes and leaves, you're talking badly about the visitor. When you're in the car with your husband, you're talking badly about the politicians. Yeah, you're speeding. You're talking on your phone. So your actions do not relate what you're telling them. You're telling your son, I need you to be a good man. I need you to be a gentleman. I need you not to beat, I need to respect women. But here you are as a man, you're not respecting the mother. So this child is seeing everything that you're doing as a parent. So you need to be very intentional, especially as you're growing up. Not even the words you say, the actions that you do. If you think you tell them, you go pray or go to church, and you're not going, how much do you think those children will go? They won't. Or if they go, they'll just go to play in church. So I think the most important thing is, I would tell parents out there is, children are looking at you. They're looking at every step you're doing, every motions you're doing, they're seeing, and that is what they're going to pick when they grow up. And it'll come a time when now they're grown up, they'll now take it back to you and tell, Dad, who are you to tell me this? You don't do this. The other day I saw you with a young girl. So don't come, you can't talk to me about it. Mom, you don't tell me about gossip. Yesterday you're telling me about so and so, you cannot tell me about that. So you need to be intentional and be very careful, because they're looking at you.
Oh, wow. That is such a powerful place to end this conversation. Again, I say a big, big thank you to Rosalind Keegan. She is a marriage and family therapist. Stanley and Sophie Naboliri, who are a couple, and they also have experience in parenting coaching. And of course, Lizzie and Steve Kiteto, who also are a couple and have experience in parenting coaching. Thank you for being vulnerable, because in that, I'm sure there are other people who are now reflecting back to their own story and seeing how it has had an impact on who they are today and the parents they are to their children. But we are not yet done with the show. Let's first take a look at the other world before we take a look at some of this, how it started and how it's going for some of those that are in the newsroom. Now, employees at the Gala chocolate factory near eastern Belgium confront the damage caused by deadly floods which have engulfed northwestern Europe in recent days. Now, the deluge has destroyed the factory's exterior and put production at a standstill for an undetermined amount of time. Now, Valerie, a marketing and communication manager at the chocolate factory, says, we're waiting for the electricity to come back and for the site to be secured so our lives are not at risk. These people, the employees, there are about 20 of them who live in the region, so our thoughts are with them today because they have been very badly affected. The priority for these people is that they recover from a personal point of view, and for the moment, obviously, the production site, the workshop have not reopened, so we'll see more clearly in a few days. Elsewhere, Berliners can now get vaccinated against COVID-19 in a IKEA car park in a Berlin district without leaving their vehicle. Now the turnout for the first day is high, with the campaign due to continue for another 6 weeks. Irina, a patient says, my family doctor is on holiday and I haven't had a chance to see him yet. Mandy, also a patient, online appointments were also very difficult to get. I work all day and that is why I'm here today. You get an appointment and then they say we don't have any vaccines. So here was an opportunity and I took it.
Danke. Runter, also praktisch runterhängen lassen. So. Ja, genau. Und das noch ein bisschen weiter. Wunderbar, das war's schon. Einmal draufhalten, bitte. Jawohl. Okay.
So back to studio and to our conversation of the day, as we had was psychology, the psychology of parenting, and clearly it's a lot about how it started and how it's going today, so that again we can do better for the generations to come. And we thought to just, you know, spice up this conversation, let's take a look at how it started and how it's going for some of the people that you see on your screens in the newsroom. Of course, as you can see, Julian Samboko was from Alliance High School, and this is how it started, in his green and grey trousers. And today, as you know, he is the NTV business editor, and yes, the Lord has been good. Well, we also have our production manager, and her name is Catherine Karethi. That is her back in the day when she was in high school. Clearly, she was a girl guide. That's how it started. And today, well, she doesn't change much, does she? Just grew her hair, and that is how it's going for her. Clearly, these are the people you say that fountain of youth is literally living in their backyard. Then, of course, my colleague, Victor Kiprop. Hey, I say, this is how things started. Nakwambia, back in the day, the brother had even some chicks, mashavu. That's him in high school, and as you know, he co-anchors this show with me, and he is doing very well for himself, and we celebrate him, Victor Kiprop. How it's going? And yes, there I am. You can see the picture with me in the yellow and green uniform. Yes, we used to dress like BP and shuttle attendants. My God. And my life in the newsroom, and of course I was in radio, and the Lord has been good. Many, many years later, happened you to Mefika. We thank God for the far we have come. And hey, what can we say? At this point, it's just to remind you that we all have a story to ourselves. We all started from somewhere, had certain dreams. This is where we are today. But of most important is that we all had a foundation, and it reflected on us negatively or positively. But as an adult, you can be intentional, as you've had today, to actually unlearn, undo some of those things that you said you never do, and perhaps they caught up with you, so that you can not only be a better person, but also be a better parent to your children in the future, if you're not already there. Again, a big thank you to our guests today, and that's where we end Your World. We wish you a wonderful rest of this Monday, and of course a happy holiday tomorrow.
Presenting the new Harpic Bathroom Cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses.